Hi everyone, this is Crystal, and today I'm very excited to be sharing with you the very first video in a brand new series where I show you how I'm organizing all of my craft supplies and let you kind of play along and organize with me. So if there's anything in your scrap supplies that you want to get organized, hopefully this will give you some inspiration for actually getting it done, which I know is my problem, and maybe also some ways to store your supplies that will work for you. So today I'm going to be starting with Project Life cards. This little set of 3 boxes here I've shown before on my channel. I recently moved all of my 3x4 cards into these boxes, and I've organized them mostly by manufacturer. So within each of these boxes, which by the way, these are Starbucks cup boxes, like when you buy the, I think it's called Been There series of cups. They come in these blue boxes with like a craft sleeve over the top of them. We have a bunch of those mugs, so I have a bunch of these boxes, and I saved them thinking they would be useful for something, and also they are my favorite colors, so I couldn't just throw them away. Turns out they're very useful for a lot of things in my craft room, as you'll see as we move forward. So that's what the boxes are. Inside, I have larger pieces of cardstock. This is just really inexpensive, like cardstock that you can buy at like big box stores like Walmart, I think is probably where I got this. So it's not fancy cardstock by any means. It's pretty flimsy. I cut it slightly larger than the 3x4 card. So here's a 3x4 card. You can see it fits inside there. That's just so that it doesn't get lost inside all of these 3x4 cards that I have in these boxes. On the top of each one of these dividers, I put a label where I typed out the name of the manufacturer. I used my typewriter, my We Are Memory Keepers Typecast typewriter, to do that, just on some inexpensive labels. In fact, let me show you. These are the labels that I used. I'm pretty sure I got these at Dollar Tree, but you can find these same labels in lots of office supply. Again, Walmart, I'm pretty sure, has them. They're just really basic file folder labels. So because they're on a sheet of, let's see, 6, I think, I was able to just run this entire sheet through my Typecast pretty easily and just typed out the name of the manufacturer that way. You can see there are some that I haven't labeled yet. That's because when I first created this, I hadn't found all of my stash of 3x4 cards, so there were some that I forgot that I had, and then I had to create new dividers, and I'll need to go back in and create new labels and type those out as well. So you can see this is how I have it organized. It starts with this one. I do have a little section of just rainbow. These are cards that I didn't have a lot from that individual manufacturer, or some of them I think are even just ones that I had cut down to 3x4. Some of them are cut apart sheets. I think some of them are pattern paper, like this one that I had just cut down to 3x4. So I have those in rainbow order just to make it easier to find something if I just need a filler. I did the same thing with gray and black and neutrals. And then I have a little section of gold foil. And then rainbow is actually rainbow, like that has all the colors of the rainbow on it, or a lot of them. So it's kind of like a multicolored section. And then I have a section for white dots and grid. And then I have a section, a very small one, for specialty cards. These are vellum or acetate cards. And then I do have a coffee divider in here, although I only have one little card in here. And that is one that I had stamped out myself. But potentially if I have other coffee cards, they would go in that section. And then I have a beautiful mess, Ellie Edwards, Brandy Kincaid, Citrus Twist Kits. This one is Ellie Studio, Feed Your Craft, Hip Kit Club, Humble and Create, In a Creative Bubble, Kelly Perky, Push Print Studio. This one is Simple Stories, Studio Calico, The Reset Girl, and Webster's Pages. So this is what I am limiting my 3x4 cards to. Of course, I have a lot more that are digital that I haven't printed out, but my goal is to not exceed this amount of storage. I would like to not print those out until I have room for them in here, or if I actually need them for a project. So you've seen this before. There's a little explanation, maybe more detailed than what I gave last time. You've also, I believe, seen this. So this is where I'm keeping my 4x6 cards, and I have not gone through and organized these yet. So what's in here is an older organization system that I had divided them up by theme. So there's some spring, summer, family, coffee, outdoors, etc. And then in the back is again grid and dot cards. But this is everything that I've gotten since I did this little organization system. Either I've gotten it since or I found it in my stash since, and I've just kind of thrown them in the front. And the problem is that I don't really use this. This didn't work for me. The dividing them by brand works much better for me because that's generally how I think of the cards that I have. If you think of them in terms of theme or color, definitely go that way. But for me, I think of them in terms of where I got them from. So I need to go through all of this and divide them up and put new labels on these sections that match the ones that are in these boxes. So that is where I'm at with this. However, of course, it could never be that simple. So you have seen both of these things. This, by the way, is an iris container. Let's see if I can get it closed. Sorry about that. It's an iris container that obviously is about 6 by 6, I think. So it holds 4 by 6 cards very well. Okay, so like I said, you've seen all of this. I am going to set this aside and share with you, once again, a dirty little secret of mine. So in addition to all of those, I have these and these and these. So yeah, those are definitely not all of the cards that I have. And I have just been kind of hiding these away and not really paying attention to them and pretending like they didn't exist. But they do exist, and I do need to deal with them. So what is here, these are mostly rounded corner ones. So these are a lot of core kits from Becky Higgins. I have the Dear Lizzie, I don't even remember the name of the collection anymore. I have a Dear Lizzie one. I have Craft. I have some that are from We Are Memory Keepers. I have, gosh, I don't even know. There's a lot in here. There's an Amy Tangerine one. There, yeah, these are We Are Memory Keepers. This one, I don't even remember the name of this core kit, but it was a core kit. And then some that are older, like the one from Heather Bailey. And then this one was the very first one. This is Clementine. So I had also gotten, they used to have paper packs that coordinated with each of the core kits, and I had gotten some of the paper packs. So those don't actually have rounded corners because I cut them down from larger paper. So that's what's in those two boxes. This is Studio Calico. All of these are Studio Calico, and these are Studio Calico. These are random, like 2x2, 3x3, and 4x4 cards that I don't really know what to do with. Here are some random little packs of cards that I had gotten throughout the years. Here are my some more grid cards that have rounded corners. And here, again, just some random cards that some of these are from cut-apart sheets. These are all Mambi. I think these are Pebbles. Yeah, I think these are more from cut-aparts. So I need to go through all of this, decide if there's any reason for me to keep any of it, which right now I'm thinking no, because I don't think I'll be able to fit it into the organization that I have available to me. But I need to kind of sort through and figure out if I do want to keep any of this, if there's any other reason for me to keep this, and then also sort through those 4x6 cards and put new labels on them. So that is what I plan to do today. So I am going to get started on that. I'm just going to put you on fast forward and let you watch my process. So I'm going to start by going through this red box, which actually happens to be a different Starbucks box, but it holds, like I said before, a lot of older Studio Calico cards. So mostly rounded corner cards from Studio Calico kits going back to probably 2011, 2012 maybe. I've had these for a very long time. So what I'm doing here is really just trying to make very quick decisions. And I've obviously sped this up quite a bit just because you don't need to watch me try and make decisions about every single one of these cards. But my goal here is just to look at it and immediately decide whether it's something that I know that I can use in the next couple months or whether it's something I can let go of. So only keeping those things that are um, things that spark a story idea or something that I just absolutely love the design of, something that I can cut up and use in different ways on projects, like cut into embellishments or die cut, or things that I can use as a whole card, but likely not in a pocket since I don't really use rounded corner cards in my pockets anymore. So that's what I'm doing, going through both of these piles. You can see there's lots here. There are even duplicates because I had more than one of these kits somehow. I don't even know how that's possible, but I did. I had multiples of some of these kits. So yeah, just trying to make really quick decisions because if I think about it too much, then I will just end up keeping everything. I will be able to think of a use for all of these things. So that's not really the goal here. It's just to figure out really quickly whether I love it or I don't. And if I love it, can I actually use it? So kind of two tiers there going through my mind as I'm flipping through all of these. And they are great cards. I subscribed to them for so long for a reason because they are very beautiful cards. They have great sayings on them, but if I haven't used them by now, I had to make really hard decisions about whether I was actually going to use them in the future or not. So once I get through this stack of Studio Calico cards, I have a few other things in this box. I have some 4x4 cards, which, if I'm being perfectly honest, I don't really use a lot of 4x4s. So when I do get 4x4s, they mostly just kind of sit in my stash and I'm not really sure what to do with them. So this was pretty easy for me to just say, okay, I'm definitely not going to use any of these. I believe all of these are Heidi Swap. I definitely don't think I'm going to use those, so I just very quickly put those into a pile to add to my D-stash boxes. But then there were some from Simple Stories, and those match the collections that I have in my 3x4 cards. So I do decide to kind of set these aside, and you'll see later on I do end up keeping these, and I do find a way to store them that actually keeps them with the other supplies that I am using. So hopefully that will inspire me to actually get these used as well. So same with the 2x2 cards. These are actually 3x3 cards. I think most of these are from A Beautiful Mess from Messy Boxes, I think they were called. I'd never subscribed to them, but I did buy a bunch of them when they went on sale once they announced that they were no longer continuing them. So I did buy quite a few. Again, 3x3 is not a size that I use very often. So I have used some of these in the past as embellishments on larger layouts. And that's mostly what I'm thinking I'll use the ones that I do keep for. But yeah, I don't do a lot of 3x3 documenting. So most of these I can let go of. But again, they do make great embellishments. They do really work to cut down and create die cuts out of. But I just don't need this many. When you have a very limited space to keep things in, you have to make tough decisions and you have to just kind of go with your instinct and make very quick decisions about what you're actually going to be able to use. Okay, so here are the 2x2. Again, I'm keeping those Simple Stories ones. These are from snap packs that I really haven't used at all yet, so I am going to give myself a chance to use those before I let go of them. And then the rest of these I think are mostly Webster's Pages from a cut apart, and then a few from Studio Calico, I believe. I think those ones there were from Studio Calico. I do decide to keep a couple of them, only ones that I can really cut down and use as embellishments. but not very many, because again, I just don't use 2x2. And when I do need something that's 2x2, I will generally cut down a larger paper or a larger card and use that in a 2x2 pocket instead. So letting all of those go as well. So there is a little pile of things I'm keeping so far. What's left here are just kind of some random things. So there is a pack of Studio Calico kind of journaling spots. There are some, these are actually Studio G, I think, that I picked up at Joann or something. They were little packages of smaller cards. They're not 4x6 and 3x4, so I never used them. And then these two little pads are from Becky Higgins and from We Are Memory Keepers. And they again just weren't something that I was reaching for. The Becky Higgins ones were rounded corners, and the other ones just weren't really my style anymore. So finally, I have this small box to go through. Like I said before, this is largely cut aparts and things like that, even just some pattern paper, I believe, that I had cut down to 3x4. And once again, I'm being a little bit ruthless here and having to make some very quick decisions about what I can actually use and what I won't. So letting most of this go, I think I only keep those two little pieces. They're kind of vintagey, and I thought that I could use them on a larger layout as layering pieces pretty easily. So I did keep those. That right there was all from Pebbles, from another one of those little pads of mixed 4x6 and 3x4 cards. I got rid of all of the Mambi cards that I have because I just don't use those. They aren't really my style anymore. And then here again, 4x6 cards that are mostly ones cut down from larger pieces of paper or from cut apart sheets. Some of them I had already rounded the corners of, and I'm pretty much letting go of all of these. There was some basic gray in there, again, some Becky Higgins and Heidi Swap, just some random bits, adding them to the de-stash pile as well. The only thing I kept from that were two little pieces of vellum because I use a lot of vellum, so I figured I'd be able to actually use those. And then one more little pile of 3x4 cards, and once again, this is just a kind of compilation of random things. There's some Ellie Studio here, there's some Pebbles, there's some Heidi Swap, some Studio Calico, some cut apart sheets, just lots of random little things. So again, flipping through them very quickly, trying to make really quick decisions. Do I love it? Do I not? And then moving on. So I have those two larger boxes left to go through. I'm going to come back here live and talk about those for just a minute as I finish this up. Okay, so I am down to these two boxes, which, like I said before, are mostly the core kits and other large kits that I purchased specifically for Project Life. Some We Are Memory Keepers, some Becky Higgins Project Life, that sort of stuff. I had to step away for a minute because I needed to give this some serious thought. So I've gone through all the other bits and pieces, and this is all I have left of things that I actually think I will use. And I'm going to talk a bit about this in just a second. But I think I've decided to just let all of this go. So they all have rounded corners, which I don't use anymore. And even though I do have pages to fill in from previous years where I was using rounded corners, it's plenty easy to round the corners of any of the square corner cards that I have. So it's not worth keeping these just for that purpose. And I have to remind myself that there is a constant influx of new product coming through my door, through the design teams that I work for, through the new products that are released that I am able to purchase. There is no shortage of product for me. And this, even though some of these are super cute, even from this very first core kit, the Clementine core kit, some of these are really adorable and, really kind of basic and would be very usable. I just don't have the space to keep them. If I want to really downsize like I am planning to do, then there is no space for these. Even if I went through and only picked out my favorite cards from each of these collections, it would be enough to probably fill, I don't know, maybe another one of these, maybe half one of those. and I don't have the space for that. So I am going to let all of these go, which means that they are going to end up in some destash boxes that I will have available once this series is over, hopefully very soon, because this all needs to happen very soon. Okay, so this, along with all of this in this box, all of this is going into the destash. Okay, so that leaves me with this little box. So these are the things that I pulled out of those other boxes that I thought either I would be able to use one way or another, or belonged to like these two stacks. So these are part of Simple Stories little kits. I don't remember what they're called. Snap packs, I think, that I have the 3x4 cards to match. So I thought maybe I should hold on to these other ones if I'm creating with those 3x4 cards. I did keep them in my 3x4 stash. So I'm thinking I should hold on to these for if I work with those, especially this one is all about home and in quarantine. I figure that will come in handy. And then this one is a very summery one, which I'm not sure about, but I'm holding on to for now. Everything else that I kept, I felt like I could use it in one way or another, either by cutting it down, like this little pizza piece. I thought I could either punch into a circle and use as an embellishment, or just fussy cut it out and use it as an embellishment. Same with this little cat. I kept several cat and dog cards for the same reason. I thought I could use those, possibly this for journaling on a layout, or these on a layout, or just a fussy cut around them and use those adorable little figures on one of my pages. These, again, I thought I could cut up and use, or use in conjunction with other supplies on layouts. They were themes or icons that I felt I could definitely get some use out of. And the same with these 3x4 cards. I kept ones that I really loved the look of and thought I could cut something out of. I'm not sure about using this side, but I could definitely, you know, punch a heart out of that or something. Again, Let's Stay Home seems really relevant right now. Great Outdoors, again, I can use a circle punch or circle die to cut that out. This is just a really basic pattern, but it's gold foil, so I thought it would make a cute die cut if I cut that out. A couple of these I thought would work well on layouts that I had ideas for. So that's what I've kept here, just a few of those. And then the same here with the 4x6 cards, just ones that I really liked the look of, that I liked the sentiment on, that I thought I could use for a layout or to cut up as embellishments, or even on a card. Like these two I thought would work really well on a card. And then this is just really vellum that I had cut down to 4x6, so I can certainly get some use out of that. And again, these I thought would make great layering pieces or embellishments on pages. But because I am keeping these, because I've decided to keep these, I am making a commitment to use them. So I'm not going to let them sit in my stash for another 10 years or however long they've been here. Some of them I'm sure have been here that long. I'm going to use them. So if I don't use them by, let's put a date on it, because I feel like I need that, and I'm probably going to give myself to the end of the year. So if I don't use them this year, then they need to go. Yeah, that's what I'm telling myself right now, because I just don't have the space to keep them, like I've said before. So that is my commitment. I'm going to keep these out, and I will show you in another video my plan for keeping out the supplies that I really want to use up, the ones that I want to kind of have at hand all the time. So that will be a separate video. But for now, just know that these are going to go into that collection of things, and that I am making a commitment to use them soon. And if I don't, to let them go. So that is what I've ended up with here. I still need to go through my 4x6 cards, so I am going to take a quick break and then come back and do that. Okay, so the last thing I have to do is to sort through this bin of 4x6 cards. So like I said before, I have this old organization system that just didn't work for me, and then I have all of these in front. I believe that these are mostly by manufacturer already. I think at one point I did go through and sort them, but we will double check that. and then sort through the rest of these as well. So my plan is to lay these out on my desk by manufacturer, which is how I'm going to sort them, and then add all of these hopefully into the piles that I make from these. That's my plan. So we'll see how it goes. I'm going to go ahead and put you on fast forward while I do that. So finally, I'm getting to the part of the process that I actually enjoy. I love looking through the cards that I know I'm going to keep, reminding myself of what I have, and that's really what I'm doing here. I'm just kind of dividing up these cards by manufacturer, which I had, like I said before, I had done once already, so this was a pretty easy process at first. This first group of cards that were kind of in the front of that container, I'm just kind of creating piles for each of the manufacturers. I have Hip Kit Club, I have Studio Calico, I have Citrus Twist, I have Feed Your Craft and In a Creative Bubble, I have some A Beautiful Mess, some Ellie's Studio, some Kelly Perky, and some Simple Story cards as well. And I ran out of space, so I had to turn them to the side so I could add a few more categories like Ellie Edwards. And let's see, what else? I think that's all so far. Oh, Brandy Kincaid, I also add a section or a pile for her, and Pushprint Studio. And then I have some things kind of off to the side here in just a second that will be just some random other things. So now I'm starting to dig into those categories that I had created a long time ago. And I found some strange things in there. So like all of these title cards from Studio Calico kits, I definitely don't need to keep those. So those are just going off to my recycle bin. Yeah, I'm not sure why I held on to all of those, but you could see they were from like 2014 and 2015. I did find a bunch of 3x4 cards, which I'm going to set aside and work into my 3x4 storage. I do create a pile off to the side of things that I don't really have a category for yet, so I can figure out what to do with those once I have everything else sorted. And I am also creating a pile of things to let go of. So some of these I just don't love anymore. And if I don't love it, then it's time to let it go. So I'm creating a pile off to the side of those. That's going to go into my destash pile as well. So as I work through all of these categories, I'm not entirely sure why I thought this would work for me. I generally don't organize anything by category, so I guess you have to experiment and try things before you really know what's going to work for you, but this one definitely did not work for me. So there was a vintage category. It's just things that I guess looked a little bit vintage to me. Yeah, definitely don't think of things in that way at all when I'm looking for supplies. Okay, so as I continue to sort these all by manufacturer, and I should also say that it's very clear to me that this is the method that works for me because I'm able to sort all of these by manufacturer. I was able to remember where all of these cards were from, even though they were all divided up into these other categories, because that's really how I think about my supplies. It's how I approach them. It's how I think about and keep a mental inventory of what I have. So it just became more and more obvious to me that this was the right move, that this is really how I need to sort supplies, or at least this type of supply from here on out. So I'm going to finish up sorting through all of those categories that I had and dealing with that little pile of just plain grid cards that was in the back. And then I am going to work on creating some new organization, some new labels for these categories. So you may have noticed that the older categories that I had created, I had just glued a little tab that I had punched out to the top of an actual 4x6 card. It was a rounded corner Becky Higgins grid card, but I'm not going to be doing that going forward. I'm going to be using the same system I had used for my 3x4 cards. So I'm going to take just some plain cardstock and cut it down to slightly larger than 4x6, but I will show you that process here in just a minute. But before I do that, I want to get all of these category labels typed up. So while I have them all sitting here next to me, I'm going to grab my typewriter and that package of labels and type up an individual label for each one of those categories. So I just kind of work through I piled all of those piles up into a larger pile, and then I just work through and type a label for each one. And I don't make you watch this whole process, but I did want you to see how I do type up labels on my Typecast typewriter. So it works pretty well. One of you actually gave me the tip to make sure that those two little black rollers are placed over the top of the thing you're typing on, which makes a huge difference when you're trying to work on something as small as this. But once you do that, it's pretty simple. You just roll it through. I try to line up the line with those blue marks on either side of the label, which makes it somewhat centered. They're not all centered completely perfectly, but that's okay with me. It really doesn't bother me. So that is how I typed them up. I'm going to finish up typing up the rest of them, and then I'm going to cut down some of this inexpensive cardstock to use as my divider. So I grabbed one of the 3x4 dividers I had already created and just measured how much bigger I had made the divider cards than the actual journaling cards. So I just added, I think it was a 1/4 inch to each side, so making it 6 1/4 inches wide by, I believe, 4.5 inches tall. I believe those are the dimensions that I used, and that makes it just so that it's slightly larger on all sides than the journal cards, so that they are not going to get lost in my organization. So I'm going to trim down a bunch of these, and I am doing like 3 sheets at a time just to make this go a little bit faster, and taking the scraps and adding them to my scrap bin. And then I will take each of these labels and add them to the top of those cards. So I think I ended up with 18 different categories, and I did type up the remaining 3x4 card labels that I needed to finish off my 3x4 organization as well. So there are a few more out there, but I think I ended up with 18 different categories of 4x6 cards. And I'm not being too picky about getting them centered. I'm just kind of eyeballing the center of each of these cards, and then I will go through and put them into alphabetical order, since that is how I store them. I did also type up some labels for a rainbow order card category, and I think some neutrals and maybe black and white. I'm not entirely sure. So those added to the categories as well, and those will sit in front of my different branded categories, and then all of the brands will be in alphabetical order just to make it easier for me to find them very quickly. So I'm just separating them out, putting them into alphabetical order, keeping those other categories separate. So there they are. It's Roy G. Biv, I think gray and black, neutrals, white, dot, and grid, and then specialty cards. Those are the extra categories I created. And since I already have all of these divided up, all I have to do is slip them behind the category label that they belong to, and then start piling up. And then I will just slip them into that same plastic container, and I will be ready to go. So almost done with the process here. In just a few minutes, I'm going to come back and walk you through how it all turned out and what my plans are for moving forward. Okay, so I have everything divided up by manufacturer or by designer in my 4x6 bin here. There was a pile of stuff that I had, when I was sorting, you may have noticed, that I kind of set off to the side. That was stuff that I knew wouldn't fit into any of these categories, stuff that I wasn't sure I really even wanted to keep. I ended up putting all of that either in my recycle bin. There were a few things that were printables that didn't turn out the right size, or into the de-stash pile. So all of that went into the de-stash pile or into my recycle bin. So that's what that was. I did also put the 4x4 cards from Simple Stories into the Simple Stories section here, and the 2x2 cards, which are kind of hard to get to, but I couldn't think of a better way of dealing with them. They're here in the 3x4 cards under the Simple Stories section. So I did also create a Pebbles section. You may have noticed I pulled out some 3x4 cards that were hiding in my 4x6, so they went into a Pebbles section here, which I created, and then I went ahead and filled in all of the tags that were missing labels. So this is my Project Life card stash, all organized and ready to go. I'm really hoping that this will make all of these much more usable for me. I know that this system has been working over the last few months, so I'm pretty sure that this 4x6 system is going to work just as well. And let's not forget about my little pile of extras that I am determined to use up. So I will be talking about those, where I'm going to store those in a future video. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them down below and I will get back to you as soon as I can. I hope that you enjoyed this video. I hope you found some inspiration for organizing your own stash. And I would love to hear how you organize your Project Life cards. So be sure to leave that in a comment down below as well. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you back here soon.